Ergo wants to be the platform for you to express your political thoughts. Please feel free to join the discussion via phone, video, or in person. To set up an interview, contact The Ergo Show at Outlook.com. So joining us in today's The People's Platform, we have Alfons Tena. Alfons Tena is an international journalist who's written for several different news publications and political publications. He lives in Spain. He has a wealth of information regarding authoritarianism, dictatorship, and his views of Donald Trump will give us some insight as to how the rest of the world is viewing Donald Trump. You can't imagine it'll be well.
All right. So, you once wrote a threatened and therefore unstable sense of identity, an acute awareness of its helpless vulnerability, a constant fear of being overwhelmed by its dependency, are overcompensated by clinging to narcissist nations of grandiosity. So do you feel that these words would apply to Donald Trump, or how would you characterize them?
Well, in fact, I wrote it about not related to American political situation, but is related not so much to Trump, but to his voters. Okay. I mean, people who vote for Trump really feel they are left behind. They have not the privilege, or they have not the control of the country they believed they had before. So they want to overcompensate it, establishing a new covenant that in reality is the old covenant: white supremacy, white dominion, and the old family values, protecting all these classes, all these kind of people that are left behind because of globalization or technological change. So they overcompensate that, thinking them as the embodiment of the country.
Okay. That quote really has stroked me. I knew you didn't write it about Trump, but when I was reading your articles and I saw that, I was like, wow, that sounds like America right now.
Yes, because in reality, my article, if you remember it, it was related to what happens when a country, when some collective people, in that case, I was speaking on former colonial European powers, lost their former might. So in that case, it's usually overcompensated by that. You can see it very clearly on Brexit vote, for instance, taking back control. We have to go back to conquer the world, to be the paramount in the world. You can see it clearly also in America First. You can see it, but from the United States, I think that you see it just in the high cases, America, Trump, or the United Kingdom. But that's the same thing that is said here in Catalonia, or Hungary, or Serbia, or in Poland as well. That's ludicrous because, saying make America great again or America first is a wrong policy. But you can say it is a big country, but saying Serbia first or Poland first is just ludicrous.
Right. All right. So Donald,
here 20 years ago, the first that used that as an electoral slogan was in Catalonia. The Catalonia's president at that time, at the 90s, had an electoral slogan, Catalonia first.
Wow, okay.
Now, Ben also said it in France.
Right, with that Marie Le Pen, and even somewhat Macron even seems to be about that type of policy to a degree, maybe not as far as she is with that populist rhetoric. So, Donald Trump has staged war with.
Yes, but
go ahead.
Excuse me, no, but you have seen that Trump and Trump policies have had an effect of veterans in Europe. After Trump, nobody has won any elections related that could be said that he's or she is related to him. Not in the Netherlands, not in France, not in Austria, not now in Germany. There are new elections. I mean, if you nowadays can say that a European politician defends the same policies as Trump, that's electoral poison. Nobody is going to vote for him or her.
Right. That's absolutely correct.
That always votes for right policies, but no more than that.
Right. It's like we're the ones that got stuck with him, and everybody else seems to be voting, from my view, the right way. Just from my point of view. Not saying that they're right or wrong, but
the problem is that you are suffering first and foremost that. So you are the model nowadays in the world that you cannot do that.
Right.
Beware of that. Beware of that kind of politicians. Don't vote that.
Right. Absolutely. But speaking more about him, he's gone to war with the media several times and with several public figures like Angela Merkel. He had that awkward handshake with Macron when he was overseas. So being a jurist that you are, because I know that you're a jurist in Catalonia, do you feel that this strategy is successful and appropriate for someone in his position?
Well, it's appropriate if you want to grab absolute power. That was written by Hannah Arendt a lot of years ago. That the first move that an authoritarian or totalitarian leader must do. That is, say that everything, lie, and repeating lies, and say that everybody lies. So people arrive a moment that they are unable to distinguish between what's right, what's not, between true and false. And that's the way to grab absolute power. Because if nothing is real, if nothing is true, so how is the reason? Why to resist the power if nothing is real, if nothing is true? So it's very appropriate in that case that Trump is the same thing that the Nazis did. It's exactly the same thing. It's like Hungary did at the 30s, that said, well, do repeat a lie 1 and 2 and 3 and 1,000 times, and people will arrive to believe it.
Right. And see, I think that that's what's the problem with a lot of people in America. Like, a lot of people here don't pay attention to politics, and whenever they do, if they happen to jump in on something that he's lying about, then they automatically believe that to be true instead of doing any type of investigation of their own. Because, everybody just wants their information right now, instead of truly deeply investigating anything. So that's a problem, that a culture that you kind of have. Do you know of any ways to overcome that type of culture?
I think that there are two different phenomena on that. First, that you were not really aware of what was the danger that was coming. You Americans at large thought that, well, it cannot happen here. That's Asia, Latin America, European phenomena, African phenomena, but not here. Not here. We are the land of the brave, and etc. So it can happen. It can happen. It has happened. But you have a second part that is your greatest strength, that is strong institutions and mobilized people. That is the most important thing. So I think that you are acting as is needed. That is, to resist everything, to combat everything, to fight every little pass that Trump and the Trump administration does. Because they need to feel that it's difficult, that it's not a highway to absolute power, but that every pass, every movement, everything that they try to do will be opposed by people, opposed in courts, opposed as whatever means available. So that's the way to make them not so powerful to fulfill their policies. In fact, there are 5 months have already passed, and Trump has not been able to implement anything at all. He has been only able to block and reverse Obama's policies, but not to impose any policy that was at his manifesto or at the Republican Party manifesto at the elections.
Wow, that's good. That's good observations. So as a jurist, I know from reading your articles that you've advocated for judicial independence. In the United States, the president appoints federal judges here and the attorney general. So do you feel that this takes away from judicial independence? And if so, what are ways that judges and attorney generals should be placed? Or do you think that the president is okay to pick them all?
Well, judicial independence is paramount. If you have no judicial independence in a country, you are doomed. That means that there is no democracy, there are not civil liberties, there are no rights whatsoever. The way of appointing judges and attorneys in the United States has developed in 250 years, and it works pretty well. I mean, in fact, maybe for the culture that it's developed by them, judges act as really independent. And even the judges that have been appointed, you have a lot of cases in the Supreme Court and the Supreme Court of the states as well, that they are not a puppet. They are not a president minion. When they are appointed, they usually act abiding to law and abiding to the Constitution, not to the person that has brought them there. So nowadays, I think there is no risk of losing this long tradition of judicial independence in the United States. But I think that the Trump experience means also that it will be necessary to rethink what other checks and balances are needed to ensure that in this appointment of judges or the attorneys or the attorney general is intervened far more people, the society as large, civic groups, minorities, that ensure that this independence is really, really assured.
That's good. I like that. I'm taking notes on what you're saying, by the way. So with the current Democrat and Republican parties and the uprising of the alt-right, do you feel that an alt-left movement will emerge? And if so, what do you think their ideological views would be?
I think that's an expand movement nowadays. Alt-right was just a phenomena that was the alt as alternative, that was just the old southern fascism or white supremacism. Now they have no really power. They have no really not. They don't call the shots at the White House nowadays. You have seen that Trump has gone to the old Republican oligarchy of Wall Street, not to the ideologies of the alt-right. Steve Bannon, that is the paramount guy on that, is really marginalized. So there is not a mass movement of extreme right or far right in America nowadays. I think that they have spent their time. So there is not also a alt-left necessary to go against them, because it's very difficult to build a mass movement of fascism in the United States, since there is not such a movement anywhere in the world. It's another thing. It's an authoritarianism, it's a populism, it's the older trends of white supremacism in the United States. But it's not, this alt-right has not really coalesced in a strong mass movement, political movement that is a real threat to democracy in America.
Wow.
I hope so.
I hope so too. Okay. And the last question I have for you is, as you know, I think as the world knows, Donald Trump has caused a lot of damage to the country, maybe even the country's image. So how do you feel that a country could come back together again after having such a leader? for however long we're going to have him as a leader.
Oh, surely, no problem on that. I mean, we had here in Catalonia, in Spain, we had a real alt-right dictatorship for 40 years. So we made it fail, and we have recovered. So there is no problem on that. There is always recovery. Trump won't last. It's just in the maximum is 4 years. Maybe he's impeached. Maybe he dies. Maybe he gets absolutely nuts before. You may think that, well, that's the way. That's the way we see it here, him here in the rest of the world. So he's 70 years old, and he has not a real base because he doesn't work well. He doesn't work well. So there is no problem. And people all the world distinguishes very well. That's the country, that's the people, that's the political system, that's the president. So there is no this identification that America or American people means Trump. Trump is just the president, and presidents go on fall. Do you remember Nixon, for instance?
Mm-hmm.
What real damage he did to the United States? What lasting damage he did? He was just an accident. Mm-hmm. So we have to work. You have to work, and we have outside the United States to assist you to get Trump to be a shorter accident that Nixon was.
Oh, that's good stuff. All righty. That was all I wrote for you. You did phenomenal. Do you have any questions for me or anything?
Well, I would like to. Do you think that people now in the United States have really are really aware of the danger that consolidated Trump presidency means, or it's just partisanship? It's just left-leaning or liberals against conservatives as usual? I mean, do you really think that Americans see Trump as an ordinary conservative Republican, or are they aware that he's a different kind of politician that needs a different kind of fight against?
I think that people here, they know that he's a danger. They're aware of that. I also think that people, it's so polarized here that even though there are Republicans who see him as a threat, that they're so partisan that they just go ahead and go with what everybody else on the Republican side think, and everybody on the left is all saber rattling and all that stuff. I do know that there are a lot of groups here that have Republican left and right all together, and they're all opposing Trump. So the majority of the country does see him as a threat. It's just that those in power who would even agree he's a threat, they don't want to lose their sponsorships or their PAC money for campaigning and whatnot. So they just stay with the status quo instead of basically doing what's right. So now you have this big argument all the time of how the Republicans are putting their party before their country, and instead of putting their country first. So right now, Trump has a very steady, unmoving 40% base, and the Republicans don't want to lose that base, or they're scared that they're going to lose that base if they step up against him. So until you start to see that base of his voters unravel, then you're not going to see the Republicans move. So right now, everybody's just dying for the hope that in 2018 we can change the majority of the House or the Senate. It's going to be an uphill battle, but I think it can be done. I do, especially if he takes their health care away. It'll definitely happen.
Yeah, you can count on it.
Exactly. That was the thing that someone said on the news. No one remembers who gave them something, but everyone remembers who took it away. So if they take away the health care, they're going to face a horrible, horrible, horrible defeat next year. So I'm kind of hoping that they do pass it, because I personally just want Trump out of office so very quickly. Like you said, a shorter mistake or a shorter accident. I want him out of here. So
Okay, let's hope that.
exactly. Keep your fingers crossed. But if he keeps up doing the things that he's doing, breaking laws, obstructing justice with the FBI and all that, the Republicans aren't going to have any choice but to act, or they're going to get they're kind of in a lose-lose situation from my point of view. Because if they keep enabling him to act up, then they're going to get the brunt end of it. And if they don't support him, then they're going to get the brunt end of it from his base. So they're kind of like in a lose-lose situation, which I'm not opposed to or feel bad about. But, you know, it's just the role of politics, so to speak. I'm not opposed to having a Republican.
Yeah, but
Go ahead.
yeah, but I see that in fact Trump isn't delivering what the Republican Party wanted.
Mm-hmm. Well, see, they want tax cuts
the-
and stuff like that.
Trump got the nomination of the Republican Party against the will of the Republican staff. So he's not really. So they have accepted him just as saying, well, since he's the president, we can get our agenda through. But that is not happening. That's not happening. I mean, they are not getting no repeal of health care. They are not getting all these tax changes. They are strongly against all this stuff of no trade deals and no trade with Canada, with Mexico, and all this kind of stuff. So really, the problem will be if the Republicans, I mean the high level of Republican politicians, see first, Trump is not delivering, and second, he's becoming a liability to be elected, and it's beginning to be that. I mean that you are not able, if all the news about Trump is obstruction of justice, nepotism, fraud, conflict of interest, grabbing money, etc., and not delivering anything, if he becomes a clown internationally, so it will happen in the United States as well, what already happens in Europe, that you'll see as Republicans saying, well, I present myself to the House of Representatives, to the Senate, to be governor, to be mayor, but I am against Trump. I have not related to Trump. I have nothing to do, nothing to see, no relation with him or no relation with his policies. It is beginning to happen right now.
Mm-hmm.
In that moment, when this president becomes a liability but for his own party, they will drop him, as they dropped Nixon. And Nixon was an insider. Nixon was a pure product of the Republican Party, not Trump. Trump is an outsider. Trump went from outside of the political system or the Republican political system to grab power. Mm-hmm. So it's very easy for them to drop him off. And they are beginning to drop him off right now.
Exactly. I honestly, I predicted that once, like, let's just say, for example, if they are able to do their tax cuts and whatnot, I predicted that once he signs off on something like that, once they get what they want out of him, then they'll be like, okay, leave him alone, set him aside. We don't need him anymore. But right now, they're just so gung-ho on getting what they can get out of him that they're just kind of idly sitting by. And I get it. Impeachment is a very serious thing. You don't want to upset the country by doing stuff that is going to, cause a war, for example. But at the same time, how much longer how much longer do we have to deal with this? I mean, Europe is, from what I imagine, at least Angela Merkel, very upset. They don't want our help with their intelligence anymore. It's just becoming a real cluster, and it's hard to watch because he just doesn't care, So, whereas like I said, I don't oppose there being Republican presidents. There are some things I agree with the Republicans on, but this guy he doesn't even read what he signs. They could put a bill in front of him saying, I resign as president, and he'll sign it and not even realize that he just signed off his resignation. So I just think that he's all about the pomp and circumstance of I'm the president. He's not in it for the policies and legislation and stuff like that.
Yeah, but which legislation? I mean, there is no bill, there is no law passed
Right.
through the House of Representatives or through the Senate. And as you know, it's the first 100 years that mark, the first 100 days, excuse me, that mark what is going to happen, that mark what is the lines of this administration. And these first 100 days have already passed and nothing has happened.
Mm-hmm.
So you may think another thing is that in Mike Pence, Republicans have the perfect president. They will be absolutely delighted having, because you will have a president that will be very conservative, but not this kind of authoritarian, dangerous clown as Trump.
Right.
So it's very easy for Republicans to drop him off, because they are not the party. In the political system of America, there is not a Führer that orders everything and everybody depends on him.
Mm-hmm.
Because the mayors, the representatives, the senators, the governors depend on the voters and the local voters. And the local voters all around America have very, very different interests that praising Trump and praising his mock royal family around.
Right.
So it's very easy for Republicans to drop Trump because they have a very good alternative for them, that is Mike Pence.
Exactly.
I don't think that impeachment what is coming, because impeachment is very complicated and very large. It's more than Trump is led by the Republican Party or its own government to see, well, it's better for you to go. It's better for you to go, and you and your family will get presidential pardon.
Mm-hmm.
That was the deal that made with Richard Nixon. He was not really impeached. He dismissed. He resigned.
Right.
Because he saw that, well, the end was coming.
Mm-hmm. Right. And you know what? He's too prideful. Even if he does realize that his end is coming, he'll still probably try to stubbornly, I'm the president, I'm going to stay here until, he'll write it out until the very end. I don't see him giving up. But we'll have to see how it happens. I hope he stays in there to get fully impeached.
Yeah, but in that case, you have been very lucky. Lucky in a sense that Trump is a very lazy, not focused person, and with an attention span of just a mosquito, as it said. So, well, the worst thing that you can have is a dictator that is an authoritarian leader that wants to become a dictator that is effective, that is a workaholic people.
Mm-hmm.
Because in that case, you will have to compare the first 100 days of Hitler and the first, or Lenin, or the first 100 days of Trump. You need to be very focused, you will be very effective at working every day, 24 hours a day, to establish, to change a political system that is that has very, very strong roots as American. And he's not able to do that. He just sees cable TV, runs. He has not a team as such. People that work at the White House are leaking everything at every minute. So it's chaos. And you cannot establish an authoritarian regime in chaos. It's impossible. So that's the reason that I think he's doomed, because he's not even able to run an ordinary government. So how can be able to change the democratic system of the United States to make an authoritarian one if he's not even able to run the White House?
Right. Wow, that was good. That was really good. That's good observation. You need to come over here.
Because, you know, we have a lot of experience on dictators. So it's after you have more close experience with dictators. So, well, that's in a sense that means that we see it coming. We see it coming because we have first-hand experience.
Mhm.
You hadn't till now, but welcome.
Right, exactly. At least he's strongly trying. We need to get you to come over here and teach us, hold some rallies over here, because you could move the people. You are really good at it.